Hey, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for putting up with our technical setup while some of you have been watching us try to get ready for the webinar this morning. The Power Up session being brought to you proudly by MIP in conjunction today with our friends from Alteryx. So for those of you for first time joiners, thank you for investing some time. My name is Peter Kokonakis. I'm going to be your host this morning, but a little bit more than your host, I'm also going to be your conduit for asking questions. We've got quite a few participants on the call this morning, and Zoom shuts down your side of the microphones just to keep us from getting too much feedback and noise in the background, and only allows us to present one way to you. But there's a really cool way that you can actually engage today. If you move your cursor on the screen just a little bit, you'll find the floating toolbar that Zoom presents for you, and there's a box on there that says Q&A, and that's where you can actually interact with us this morning through that Q&A panel with myself and our guest presenter today. As I said, today we're being joined by Sam Chisholm, who's with us. Sorry, let me just make sure my clicker is working. Yes, it is. So Sam Chisholm is going to be joining us this morning to talk about Alteryx Auto Insights. So Alteryx have put some new functionality into the product recently through an acquisition that they made a little while ago of HyperAnna, and we talked to the team from HyperAnna in the early days of the acquisition, and now they've been blended not just as a company but as a product well into the Alteryx platform. So let me welcome and say hello to Sam Chisholm. Sam, are you there? Are you unmuted and all those good things?
I am indeed. Hopefully you can all hear me.
We can see you and hear you coming through loud and clear. Hey, welcome to today's Power Up session. Yeah, we run these to keep our customers up to date on all the technology stack that we have at MIP. And this morning we're going to be focusing on Alteryx Auto Insights. So before we kick that off and get into the technical presentation, why don't you tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
Sure, no problem. And look, it's great to be joining everyone this morning virtually. You know, as Peter said, my name's Sam Chisholm. I'm a senior manager at Alteryx within sort of product innovation. My focus, not surprisingly, given the content of today, is on Auto Insights. In terms of my background, you can probably all hear the accent on me, but I grew up over in the UK, and my background is in tech consulting. So started out my career with Accenture, you know, really focused on sort of IT strategy and sort of change management. That kind of set me up for that thirst of sort of, you know, or passion, I'd say, on, you know, bringing new technologies to you know, an audience that might not necessarily be kind of used to using them, or how do you kind of implement them, you know, for businesses today. And then made the move across to Australia, where I joined HyperAnna, which was the former name for Auto Insights. And then at the end of the last year, that took me to Alteryx. So
what a great journey. So tell us, HyperAnna was founded out of actually a requirement from one of the customers, right? So it was Natalie and the team started building the system on the back of real world requirements, right?
Yeah, so Natalie Nguyen, who, as you say, is the founder, she was working as a data scientist at the time, and yeah, she just kind of lived and breathed the problem herself, and sort of saw it with real life customers. So she was like, look, I've got to do something about this. So set up HyperAnna.
Nice, and it's obviously struck a chord with the product team and the visionaries at Alteryx, and said, hey, there's some value that we can bring to our client base and add some value to that. And we're going to show them today some of the product and what it looks like now, because when we first talked about it, it was very much the standalone HyperAnna module. And I think in the time since the last conversation we had with you guys, there's been a lot of work, not just to integrate the company, of course, but also to make sure the products are really well integrated. So we're going to see some of that today, Sam.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny what you were saying there about sort of Alteryx and the HyperAnna story, because, yeah, I mean, before we were acquired, we had a lot of mutual partners, and it was actually, sorry, customers, I should say. And it was actually a customer that said, hey, you guys would be a a really great fit. And so, yeah, that was got the ball rolling.
Ideas like that come from the strangest and some of the best places, of course, to in the market. If you've got customers saying, hey, this makes a lot of sense, then it makes it an easier decision at the corporate level to combine the two. All right, look, enough of the intros. I think it's probably time for me to hand over to you. I think if we look at the first slide. Now, I'm going to ask you to maybe share your screen, Sam, so you can control the cadence and the pace of the presentation. Like I said, team, we'll be monitoring the Q&A panel all the way through, and I'll be jumping in and out. I'm going to turn my camera off now just to save the speed and the lag for your presentations. So please send through the Q&A. We'll be pushing through some of the answers, and I'll be posing some questions to Sam as she presents. So you'll be hearing from me in the background as we go. So Sam, over to you. Start sharing your screen and let's go from there.
Perfect, thank you. So I hope everyone is seeing my screen now. Let me just make it nice and big. All right, just confirming that you can see my screen, Peter.
It looks like mine, so I'm going to say yes, but let's see how we go from there when you move to the next slide.
Okay, perfect. So look, I thought I'd start off today by just setting the scene a little bit about what Auto Insights is, the problem that it was built to solve, just to kind of set everyone up so we're all on the same page. And then what I'm going to jump into, which I suspect is what most people are most interested in, is the demo of Auto Insights. And I'm going to do a full end-to-end demo, so you'll see the sort of full Alteryx platform of Designer through to Auto Insights as well. So hopefully that should be super interesting to you all. So starting then with, I guess, this question of, why was Auto Insights created? Well, the short answer was that, what the founders saw and what, was evident is that business leaders need more advice. They don't need just more dashboards. And if you look at the top of this slide, you can see here, we've detailed out what you would describe as the ideal analytics process, which would essentially be that an analyst would create a dashboard and the business leader would go and view that dashboard. They get their insights, and then we'd all move on. That would be the sort of perfect scenario. But we know that in reality, this isn't the case. This isn't what happens. What typically happens is that once a dashboard has been created, that's when all the questions starts. So business leaders will look at it, view it, and they'll have lots of questions on, what am I seeing? What does this mean? What's causing this change, for example? And because, analysts are super supportive, what will happen is you'll get this back and forth, right? So you'll have, analysts might be sort of reconfirming the questions, supplying or iterating on the dashboard. That might in turn lead to more questions. And there's just this back and forth that goes on until the business leader eventually gets the insight that they're after. And so it's this process, really, this back and forth, which is why Auto Insights was built. Because it's slow, it's not scalable. And if you just build more dashboards, it doesn't fix the problem because you just get more questions. And then finally, kind of one of the key parts, and you'll see this in a minute when I demo the product, is that in that process, you're only going to get the answers to the questions that the business know to ask. So it's kind of one-dimensional in that sense. So I guess the question there is, okay, well, what's the answer? Auto Insights is about giving business users their own virtual data expert. And Auto Insights acts as a virtual data expert in a couple of ways. And you can kind of see, I'll go through these now, is that number one is that Auto Insights consumes and processes source data. So basically, you just have to, point the data at Auto Insights, and Auto Insights will take care of the rest. There's no kind of additional steps for the analyst to do in kind of creating those visualizations. The second is that Auto Insights will find and explain the insights in really simple and clear language. And you'll see that again, that storytelling, that narration, all of that will come through later, but that's to help the sort of business users understand what's happening, what's changed, what's gone wrong, and ultimately what's kind of causing or driving any of the issues. And a theme that will come up time and again is just that it's important that Auto Insights answers obviously direct questions, but also it's about answering the questions that you didn't know needed to be asked. And then the final part. Yeah.
Sorry, Sam, just before we jump there, is there any specific format that the data has to be in for Auto Insights to work really well?
Yeah, so good question. So typically it needs to be transactional time series data. And what I'll do is I'll show you like a quick view later of what that file will look like. But it's fairly straightforward. We typically say if you're using data for reporting today, it's not going to be far off what you need.
Okay, so that's
structured data, not sort of free text or anything like that.
Yeah, gotcha. And that's where the nice kind of union between the data wrangling capabilities of Alteryx and allow you then to start formatting that into a decent kind of format for Auto Insights to pick up on, right? Is that so that kind of makes it pretty straightforward, right?
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's, as I say, that's a perfect segue to what I was going to say next, which is essentially, you can use Auto Insights as a standalone solution. That's absolutely fine. But Auto Insights is much more powerful when used in, as part of the Alteryx platform in conjunction with Designer. And we say that because, as sort of Peter rightly mentioned there, we have a requirement for, we talked about earlier about you can, Auto Insights will pick up any data that's pointed at it. But as anybody that's worked with data for long enough will know, a lot of the work is done before, a tool picks up the data. So that's where, whether it be ELT, data prep and blend, data enrichment, etc., that's where Designer really shines, getting it ready, getting those sort of workflows set up, and then you point it straight to Auto Insights. So together, we talk about this really integrated, seamless process. And yeah, something that's really cool. I mean, we got, if I think of the timelines here, we got acquired at the end of last year, and the product team worked super quickly on this. And, before the start of the year, this was, up and running. So it's really, really cool to see this in action. Final bit then, really before we move on to the demo, as I said, I promised the intro would be short and sweet, is that I often get asked, I guess, about, well, what can customers expect to get? What is the ROI? Like, what are the benefits for Auto Insights? So you can see I've got them up on screen at the moment, the 3 buckets of benefits that you would typically see with Auto Insights. So the first one is faster insights for business users. And again, like, I'm not going to read all the text on the right-hand side. That's I'm sure these slides can be shared afterwards, but they're just quantifiable, benefits there. So first being, as I said, speed or faster insights for business. The second is less time spent on the back and forth between business users and analysts. And of course, that links and relates to the speed of insights. But what we're also talking about there is it's about reducing that effort and that workload that is typically seen on an analyst team. The hours you spend creating one-off reports or dashboards or, answering questions.
So Sam, who are you're talking business users here? Are they the key audience? Is that where Auto Insights is targeted, or was it targeted? Is it moving to a different target audience? Like, who are you really thinking is going to get the most benefit from this?
So in terms of the primary audience, or who uses, in terms of numbers, who uses Auto Insights the most, that would be a business audience. So those would be people like team leads, managers, directors, people that need to make decisions on the data. Of course, we also have benefits for analysts through the automation of reports. It's just what I'm saying in terms of the number of licenses sold, you're going to have a lot more business users using the platform than analysts. It's built predominantly from ground up for business users.
And do they need to have a lot of background? And maybe the demo will show this out as kind of background in data science, or is it pretty intuitive in terms of the output and how it works?
No, so I mean, that was kind of the premise of it, is the idea is that you don't need to have that background. So look, typically, one of the ways we look at the market, right, is that you've got, traditional dashboarding solutions, and they were built really for analysts. They were built for analysts to create visualizations and reports really quickly. We've actually sort of turned that on its head with Auto Insights, and really it's built so that business users can get automated, quick, easy, simple insights. Yeah.
Wonderful. All right, I'll come back with more questions from the audience as we go. So back to you.
Amazing. And then the final benefit there is better business outcomes. So because you're automating insights and you're putting, I guess, self-serve analytics in the hands of more and more people, it's that move away from gut feel. So that's the sort of final topic there. And as I said, that then moves us into the demo, and I just wanted to flash up on screen. It actually relates to what we were just discussing now, is kind of who uses it, who gets benefit. And as you can see here, it's both business and analytical leaders do benefit and love Auto Insights. You just for different reasons. You've got the representation of the business leader at the top there from Julie Batch from IAG, talking about that ability for her to get hold of the information herself and inquire from their own point of view. And then you've got that analyst view from Amos at Microsoft, as well. Any questions, other questions, Victor, before I flick across then into the demo?
Not at this stage. We'll keep an eye on the Q&A. We'll keep asking questions as we go.
Amazing. Okay, so I'm hoping, can you all see my new screen now, which hopefully you're all seeing is Designer. I'm going to just assume that's a yes. So what we're in now is in Designer, and what I'm going to walk you through is a fairly simple workflow that's feeding into Auto Insights. So you can see that workflow on screen now. And as I said, this is just to give you that view of, and I guess that sort of magic, as I biasly see it, of being able to go straight from your data straight into insights. So what we're looking at here is a fairly straightforward sales use case. So we've just got two input files. You've got a sales data set, which is just think of your sort of POS machines. And then we've just got some customer details. So those two things have been merged, prepped in Auto Insights to give you the output file for Auto Insights. And as this gets asked all the time, I'm just going to bring this up now to show you guys, is hopefully you're seeing on screen at the bottom here, you can see just a sample, a quick snippet of what the data looks like. And as mentioned, it's pretty straightforward. It's structured time series data. Basically here, each row is a sales transaction. So you can see here that the customer that it came from, you can see information about sort of the company size. We've got information on the country, some geographical information, and then you've got information about the sales team, the individual that's responsible for that sale, and of course the revenue there. So that's what the data looks like. As I said, this is what a workflow looks like. What we simply do now is just press on run, and that's where Auto Insights will start analyzing the data. You can see it working hard below. This process usually takes just over a minute. And what's happening kind of as I speak, or as you sort of see on screen, is that Auto Insights is effectively building up a understanding of the context of the data, getting it ready to upload into Auto Insights. And I'll just give that sort of a few more seconds or so to run.
While you're doing that, quick question for you. Designer integration. Do you have to have Designer to have Auto Insights is one of the questions we've got.
So the answer is no. So you can use Auto Insights as standalone, in which case you can connect directly your databases, or you can upload a CSV. But obviously, as I mentioned, working with Designer is the preferred way, the preferred route.
Of course, you need something to, and I use the technical term, Sam. I call it data munging. I know you guys like wrangling and blending, but munging is my favorite term. Just before you jump into the demo as well, will Auto Insights work with non-time series data or only structured data, or does Auto Insights require timestamp records to function, is the other question we have as well.
It does need time series to function, and you'll see why, because at the heart of what Auto Insights does really well is all about analyzing trends and what's driving them. So that's why that's a key component.
Wonderful. All right, back to you again.
Perfect. So now that that workflow is run, all I would need to do now is press Launch Auto Insights. And what you'll see is Auto Insights is going to pop up, and I'm going to be able to log in. I think it's going to make me re-authenticate. We'll have a look. But what you'll see, and which is kind of, no, there you go, I'm straight in. So you can see here that we've gone straight from that data workflow into Auto Insights itself. What I'm going to do now, I just wanted to show you that so you could see that I'm not doing any kind of magic tricks, and I haven't done anything. I'm just going to quickly flick down. You can see that, you know, all of the graphs and things that I'm about to show you, they're already in here. I'm not doing anything strange or complicated. But what I am going to do is just flick across to my browser, because I just prefer looking at it in my browser. Alrighty. So what we're looking at now is Auto Insights, and we're on the, I guess, landing page that we describe as Discover. So it's that sort of theme of helping you explore your data. And I guess the best way to think of Discover is an automated executive summary. So you've plugged in your data, and straight away, Auto Insights is giving you a bit of an overview of what's going on, things that you might want to have a look at. So if we have a look here at the top, on the left-hand side, I've got my metrics or measures that are in my data set. And I'm going to focus on revenue. Clearly, that's one of the key metrics for a sales data set. And you can see here that it's saying that revenue has increased to just over 300 million. So it's up by 65% from the previous month. If I flip down, the next part is that Auto Insights is going to set that in context for me. So, you know, we're looking at this, you know, I'm interested in that 65% increase. I can just pull out the slider and just easily get a sense of how that's trending. I can see that it's kind of jumped up recently, but I can kind of visually see what that looks like over time. Now, the next question from here, and that this kind of relates to that sort of, you know, that back and forth that I was talking about. And it's the same reason, actually, if I link it back to, you know, Natalie founding the company all those years ago, is what she was kind of experiencing as an analyst, right? Is that you see this number, you see that, you know, your revenue is a certain amount for a month, and I can see that it's gone up. That's kind of where you get to typically on reports or dashboards today. But the number one question that people then ask is, well, tell me what's causing it. I want to see, can you break it down like this? I want to see it like this. So this is what Auto Insights does for you automatically. And we call it what caused this. And you can see here what what caused this has basically looked at all the different dimensions and factors in the data and has summarized for us what the most likely causes for that revenue increase are. So I can see that here summarized in the box below. I can see the sort of top 6 areas. So I can see that in particular, it's team 1 that's sort of had a stellar month. They're really behind it. I can see an individual customer. I can see the country as the United States. So straight away, I get that information as to what's the most important factors for driving it. Now, of course, I might want to dive into any one of these. So, maybe I'm a manager or something and I'm interested in team performance. So if you scroll down further, you can see that I've got access to just dive into any of these areas. So I can now look at the team performance. I can see, yep, team 1 has been pulled out, but I can see how close behind team 5 is, for example. And I can see all these top performing teams, but then I can also flick it around at a click of button and see, okay, these are all the teams that maybe I need to go and speak to and figure out what's going wrong there.
So Sam, just looking at the data there, it looked like team 1 was flagged as one of the causes, which is interesting. There are other teams that had higher percentages though. So how does Auto Insights kind of make that difference? Or bring that team 1 in rather than some of the other teams? What's kind of happening behind the scenes there?
Yeah, so there's a few different things, and obviously it's also just related to there. I had flicked it by change amount, so I was ordering them by the total change amount. I can obviously order it here, in a different manner as well. But in terms of your question, so there's a few things going on. We're obviously looking at the sort of total change amount and that impact on that overall figure of 121 million. But what Auto Insights is also doing is there's a few sort of clever things going on in terms of using machine learning and advanced analytic techniques from Random Forest and Kramer's V. And they're really just to make sure that we're focusing and prioritizing on the correct factors.
Cool. And just another question while I've got you interrupt a little bit, my apologies. The question was size of data. Is there a maximum size to let to make Auto Insights run efficiently? And my question is a flip to that, is there a minimum size of data to be efficient as well? So the audience is asking about maximum size, but is there also a minimum size of data that makes it work really well?
Thank you for the reminder, because yes, that's probably something I should have covered up at the beginning. But so in terms of max size limits, an individual file, we recommend to keep it at around 10 gigabytes. There is, however, no cap on the number of data sets that you can upload. So you can upload multiple data sets, and what you'll see later in missions, which is that personalized reporting, is that you can actually pull different data sets into one report as well.
Cool. Okay.
So
thanks, Sam.
That's the math. And then to answer your question, which is also a good one actually in terms of the minimum, is the minimum really is dictated by, I guess, the value and richness of the data. So for example, there are some minimum requirements, i.e. we need to have a measure. We recommend around 7 sort of periods of data, because as I said, we're looking at changes and trends. So you want to have that. And also there are some features, and I'll show you one in a minute, things like anomaly detection that require more data, because if you're going to analyze, trends, you need to kind of see, more than 2 months of data, basically.
Yeah, indeed.
So like seasonality and things like that. So yeah, so the last bit I just wanted to say on here, just to call out, is just you can see here that it says show less likely causes. I always just show this because just to kind of, I guess, bring home that point about what I was saying about a summarized view, is that, you think of a big data set, the joy of sort of what caused that and that summary is really picking out the kind of key drivers. But of course, we want to make it easy for you to dive into anything else in your data. It's not hidden, it's not deleted, it's still there, and I can click in and drill down just as easily on these ones. And I should say as well, you can influence or help sort of guide what you want Auto Insights to return for what caused this. So if you as a business is like, look, I really couldn't care less about company size, please don't show me that as like a key factor, then you can tell Auto Insights to sort of forget it. So that's what caused it. The last section on Discover is unexpected changes. I'm going to show this quickly because I'm conscious that probably getting through time, but there are two different types of unexpected changes that Auto Insights will call out. There are anomalies and outliers. And so you can sort of scroll through these, or you can kind of filter for what you're interested in. So for example, here I'm looking at outliers, and I can see that Auto Insights is picking up for me that a particular industry, so vocational industry and investment funds, have increased well above the average range for the others. And as I click, hopefully you see that on the right-hand side, these values are changing. And I can again click into each of these and see what's driving it. So in this particular case, I can see the customer, the team, etc., the region that is driving that increase. So that's Discover. As I said, the joy of Discover is you have pointed your data at Auto Insights. It's automatically generated this exec summary for you, picking out kind of what's changed, why, and then summarizing for you some kind of unexpected outliers and anomalies. From here, typically, people say, well, that's great, like that's that overview, but I look at my data in a different way. So maybe you're the sort of head of EMEA, or you've got a particular role in the business and you want to look at your own personalized view. And again, that's typically where, like in their sort of day-to-day, that's where you get that iteration of like one-off dashboards, because someone goes, well, I want to look at it like this, or can we just look at it like that? So with missions, you can use the power of Auto Insights to do this yourself. So if I just click on missions and I create a mission, I'm going to call myself EMEA sales lead. I'm just naming that. I'm going to choose to start with analyzing revenue, and we're away. So Auto Insights now is built a sort of base report for me to start building on. So what I do is I'm now looking at my revenue. I want to filter, as I say, on EMEA because I'm interested in that particular region. I can simply add that, and you can now see that my total has been updated. I'm also, I showed you a minute ago, one of the unexpected changes is in industry. So I'm just going to dive into an industry view because I want to sort of see what's going on here. So if you have a look, what you can see is that Auto Insights is now bringing in that sort of storytelling. So I can see that revenue for EMEA has increased to a total of 170 million, and I can see that it's up by 80%. And then what Auto Insights is doing is kind of now telling me and unpacking this for me a little bit more. So it's telling me that actually about 70% of the revenue is actually just coming from about 25% of the industries, and it's calling those ones out, and I can see those visually highlighted on the screen below. I can also see that overall, Auto Insights is telling me that actually most of my industries, the revenue has increased. So, you're seeing kind of good growth in all the industries, except for computers, defense, and hospitality, which decreased. So we get this kind of quick summary at the top, and then what we see below is the equivalent, I would say, of an analyst asking all those follow-up questions. And what you're seeing is Auto Insights doing a lot of sort of pattern analysis, trend analysis, and pulling out stories. So you can see here that there are stories about the industries that have seen large increases, the ones that have seen large decreases, top industries in terms of revenue, and then this area here on 80-20. So what was called out at the top, about 70% of revenue coming from a small set of industries.
So Sam, it's fair to say that this will kind of coexist with people's dashboards that they have today, right? So there's kind of a little bit of a yeah, you've got the same data, hopefully telling the same story as your dashboards do if you're building them in, say, Tableau or Power BI or any of the other tools. But you have kind of blended the storytelling right into and the visualizations right in together. So that it kind of, I kind of think it can coexist. Is that the view from you guys as well in terms of where you see this taking place on people's dashboards or on their desktops?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'd say like 99.999% of customers that we work with will already have some form of dashboarding in place. I would say that dashboards are really great at broadcasting numbers to a wide audience, and you get those kind of numbers on a page. And in fact, they're probably they've created that demand and I guess appetite for more analytics and more information. And it's that demand that is difficult to keep up with. And so, you know, Auto Insights is a really nice complementary tool there, allowing people to kind of explore, dive in on their own. You know, it's also worth pointing out that, you know, I say that, you know, easily it's not sort of some sort of, I guess, marketing thing, because one of our customers is Microsoft. And as most people know, the creators of Power BI,
Cool.
and they use Auto Insights as well.
Yeah, look, I think in the early days of visualization and business intelligence, excuse me, I noticed some people, especially people who are good with numbers, the accountants, the data scientists, didn't like the visualizations. They actually would look at a chart and convert the charts to numbers in their heads. And then other folks like sales and marketing people who are more visual would tend to gravitate to the actual diagrams rather than the text of the numbers. And here you're kind of covering both, which is, I think, really cool kind of approach to take for covering a wider audience. So no, well done on the interface. Looks really good.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. I'll show you just one other thing, and then we'll kind of wrap up the demo. But I'm just going to show, I'm just going to jump into one other breakdown. So I'm just going to do an account management breakdown just to show you the fact that those stories are dynamic, that we're not just, it's not just the same story. So now we're looking at who's performing well. And what I like on this particular one is that you can see large increases, and you can see that Auto Insights is grouped it in different ways. You can see here that the first one is like, let's just look at the, you know, the biggest players and the fastest rise. And then later you might see ones that have had bigger percentage increases, ones that are outliers. You know, so it's just different ways of looking at it, rather than just being set to be like, we only analyze our top 5, you know, whether it be customers or, as I say, account managers. Now you're actually seeing it change depending on what makes sense towards the data, where you can go, okay, let me look at those top 5, but maybe actually I want to look at the fast growth ones, or, you know, whatever it may be. So I just wanted to show that quickly as well. And then finally, look, you know, Auto Insights was designed to be used and shared. So I'm just gonna just go back and show you, create some pages. So what you can do as well is that you can comment, you know, just kind of like a Google Docs, if everyone uses that. You can tag and comment. You can add narrations. There's a whole load of customization you can do to these pages to help put your business, you know, put your own business knowledge in there, or to kind of collaborate with colleagues. But ultimately, the kind of biggest part of that collaboration is how do you share it? So what is great is that as I've been going along and sort of, you know, analyzing these different pages, what Auto Insights has been doing is creating a summary page for me. So now what I'm getting is a one-pager that gives me an overview of some of those key insights that I've been looking at. So you get the first one where it's talking about that account management and sort of, you know, account team performance. And then I've got some industry insights as well. So then the final part is that you can set up and share this with your team. So I can set up a subscription and I can say, for example, look, I want it to be in my team's inbox, you know, every Monday morning at 9 a.m. And it can be a really neat way of kind of getting everyone on the same page there.
So it's pretty cool. So you started with the whole discovery piece, which is where we all start when we get some new data or a question from managers or our end user community. It's always about data discovery, probing, asking some what if and what next, and all those kind of really cool questions. Then being able to structure the analysis right the way through to actually then providing commentary and sharing that with other people in the business to be able to move backwards and forward. So that's been a pretty good end-to-end kind of presentation in a really short space of time. Well done, Sam.
Thank you. Look, in terms of what's next, I'm kind of flexible. I can share some use cases and what works well in Auto Insights, or if there are some questions that are kind of been lining up, I can cover questions, whichever you prefer.
What are a couple of questions pertaining to pricing and structure, but we'll cover those at the end. I think we've shown revenue, and I think it's easy for people to kind of make that transition, even if they're not in sales organizations. I kind of get that. But some of the other really interesting use cases I think might be really good to cover now. So if there are any bridges between different kind of industries, different kinds of problems. If we can cover that now, I think that might kind of open up the questioning as well for the run home over the next sort of 10 minutes or so.
Yeah, perfect. All right, I'm just going to flick through to a use case slide just to kind of give you on screen a kind of sample of some of the types of use cases that Auto Insights handles. What it's important to sort of call out is that at a high level, Auto Insights is use case, sorry, excuse me, is use case and industry agnostic. So you can see here that there's a wide range of different use cases. What they have in common is that they're all structured time series data sets. But you can see that there's a there's various applications across different departments in an organization. In terms of sort of what I would call our like top three, our bread and butter or our star performing ones, I'd point to these three. So I'd say in the finance world, it's sort of expense and bill reporting, whether that be in invoices or something similar. In sales, it's similar to what you saw. It would be sort of sales and employee performance or sales operations. And then on customer analytics side of things, there would be contact center use cases. So this could be like your customer call centers, or could even be IT help desks, for example. And those are sort of three of the key ones. And I wanted to put this on screen to explain why, because yeah, there are, I mean, if I sort of flick back, there's obviously lots of different use cases, and these are all, as I say, they're all great use cases. But the reason I point to those three is really because they are, super consistently very strong use cases. And it's really because they have three factors in them. So number one is the sort of KPI nature, or the KPI driven nature of them, in that, if you look at sales, finance or customer analytics, they're really about sort of either top line, bottom line, or customer experience. So things that an organization at an exec level really care about. So it just really helps an organization, whether we're talking to an analytics department or a business leader, make that business case, right? Because it's a really crucial KPI to the business. Just slightly, to sort of counter that, if you think about that in relation to HR, their KPI might be something about attrition or headcount. Again, really important KPIs, particularly for those teams, but it just doesn't have that same necessarily enterprise visibility. The second is that all three of these use cases will always have a large business audience to them. So, sales, the structure of a sales team, right, is that you have typically lots of sales managers and leaders. In a call center, you'll have your sort of team leads and center managers. And in a finance or expense one, you'll have your business stakeholders from probably each of the line of businesses, for example. And again, you contrast that to something like an audit use case, which again, I'm not discounting that. That works perfectly well. And we've got, customers up and running with that. You just have to kind of qualify that one a bit further because, if the purpose of the audit team is there's just a small number of finance users that want to use it, they don't really want to share that data externally, then it might not be the best match for Auto Insights, given our kind of mandate about putting the data in the hands of business users. And then finally, talking about the data matching the business problem. So with all of these areas, you can see the areas that businesses will, report on today. So it's not just the fact that they have time series structured data, like that's, that is one part of it, but it's also that almost always when we speak to these teams, their challenge is not in like getting sort of that first level of information. Their challenge is that they can't like dive down to that second and third level detail. So, when we spoke to a sort of customer contact center team, it's that, they were saying to us, but prior to Auto Insights, what the team managers would have to do is just listen in on random calls and try and get a sense of what was going wrong, or maybe what might be driving certain sort of metrics for them. But that's the kind of beauty of Auto Insights, is that being able to just dive down and do it automatically. So that was, that was everything on use cases. I can answer the pricing one, Peter, if you'd like me to do that now, or if there are things that have jumped up on use cases, we can pause here for a second.
Yeah, there's a couple of questions. Let me just bring up my technical thing. Okay, does Auto Insights AI, the AI engine, recreate the dashboard with different metrics each time the same workflow is run?
So say that one more time, sorry. Does it recreate?
So does Insight recreate the dashboard with different data, with different metrics? So does it update it when you run update the dashboard when you run with different data?
Yeah. So what happens is when you refresh it, all the values and things like that will update, and you might get different stories because I talked about them being kind of dynamic. In terms of do we show different metrics? That depends on whether the data has changed. So if you've included a new metric, then of course that will be reflected. But otherwise, if the data structure has stayed the same, then that will stay the same.
And in the missions where you're actually painting your own
pictures
version of that, so that would just update the graphs and bring forward all the new data points in there, right?
Yeah, exactly. So it'll still keep your views, but it will just update it with the latest number. And again, you can choose there whether you do want it to refresh or whether you want to fix it. So you have that flexibility.
Cool. Okay. The other question there is there the ability to create our own or new visualizations, example waterfall charts, adding long-term trend percentages, etc., etc.
Good, and I feel like the questions are picking up all the things I forgot to show. But yes, you can. There's not just one visualization. You have the ability to change it to sort of water flow, scatter, table view. There's a few things you can do. You can't sort of create them in the way of like create a new visualization. It is a sort of set list, but there's a fair degree of flexibility there.
And I guess this is where the combination of your current visualization tools as well as Auto Insights comes to play, right? So you can actually drive the insights and drive the content for your dashboards and your visualization tools to then pull out if you do need something very customized as a way to kind of blend those together, right?
Yeah.
All right. Exactly. So the first question around the pricing and the structure is, can people buy Auto Insights standalone, was the question that was asked earlier in the piece today. So can it be acquired standalone?
Yes, it can. So effectively, the way that we do pricing is that there are a couple of sort of starter bundles. So we have 2 starter bundles, and really the difference between the two is just the sort of makeup of a creator and a viewer. So what I should say is there are 2 types of licenses that you can purchase with Auto Insights. The creator license is for that analyst, so someone that needs to upload data or connect to workflow. But the majority of licenses will be viewer licenses, and those are people that are getting insights. Literally the only difference between the two is that a creator can upload data. So a viewer license isn't what some viewer licenses are, where it's like you can only kind of view or look at the insights. You really can sort of create, and you can do all of the things that you saw me doing in the demo today with a viewer. But the bundles are kind of between 5 and 10 creators to about 40 to 60 viewers. And that's priced starting at 40,000 AUD. And then you can just build out packs from there. So you can add on more creators or more viewers to sort of make it work for your organization.
Wonderful. All right, look, I think we've covered most of the stuff today. So we kind of started with kind of the problem, the analytics problem, which I think is still endemic. We see it again and again. People kind of struggle with understanding the real problem and understanding what problem they're trying to solve, and then whether they've got the data to actually then do the visualizations, then whether they have the skills to be able to pull out some of the things that you've got there in terms of causality versus correlation. So there's some really good in-depth analytics that's happening. And as an end user, I don't need to know what's happening in a way. I just get the information that's relevant and important to my business, brings it forward. And we've talked about a bunch of use cases, and we've seen specifically the demo on revenue. So I think, Sam, in the last kind of 50 minutes or so, we've covered a lot of territory. I'd like to extend our thanks from MIP for taking time out of your day today to help our customers understand a little bit more about Auto Insights and how it can extend the value of Alteryx. So really big thanks to you, and a virtual round of applause from all our team at MIP and also all of our customers. So thank you so much for that. The next step from our perspective, I think, is to get our customers to try some of this out. So have the opportunity to play with their data in their environments. Oh, one thing, hosting or the environment around where they can install. How does Analytics Insights work? Is there a VM version, or is there a local version? How do you actually install the product?
Yeah, so yeah, great question there. So Auto Insights is a cloud product. So the sort of bread and butter one is hosted on Microsoft Azure. But there's data centers all around the world, so your data never kind of goes offshore. So that setup is super quick. If you were to purchase and you were to purchase over a certain spend threshold, then you could also have a virtual private cloud deployment, and we support Azure, Google, and AWS.
Wonderful. Okay, sounds like all the key tick boxes checked there. So yeah. So the offer we're going to make today to our customers is we're going to invest our consultants' time. So what we're offering today is a half day of consulting to help people install. And the big thing I think for us is identifying the problem that you're trying to solve. I think when people say, "Hey, I've got all these potential data science issues in the business," trying to specifically state what the problem is you're trying to solve, and then checking whether you have the right data to actually address that. So what we'll do is we'll put forward a half-day consulting exercise, basically for someone to challenge our customers. So sit there with them, workshop around, okay, problem definition, which is kind of one of the big ones, and then looking at the inventory of data, helping them kind of get the product set up and running it through a few times, just to kind of get them comfortable with it, and then leaving them with a product for a period of time, whether it's, I think the trial period's a couple of weeks. So we will help people get that 2-week period up and running more quickly, and hopefully get a little bit more traction in terms of the analytics insights that you're looking for in your business. So Sam, again, on behalf of the team at MIP and all of our customers that have joined in today, thank you so much. I think we're actually going to finish a couple of minutes early. So who's ever been to a webinar that's actually run ahead of schedule? Like, let's make this the first, shall we? Any last comments from you before we wrap up?
No, just saying, look, I think that offer is awesome in the sense of the actual connecting and getting on Auto Insights, getting a license, that takes minutes, right? But actually that thought process and just thinking about what you want to do with it, how it works in your business, what's the problem that you want to solve, that's a really valuable use of time. So yeah, I'm sure you'll get lots of uptake on that.
Yeah, it sounds like we will. With all the questions that have been asked, I think we will be. So team, our consultants and our sales guys will be calling the people that registered for today's session just to follow up and see if there's any other questions they have. More than happy to take those in the future. I guess whenever I hang up from a webinar, I always have 1,000 questions that then flood my head. Or what about? So all those questions, feel free to ask when we follow up in the next week or two from the session. Sam, great to work with you. Looking forward to working more closely with you guys as we get more and more joint customers across the threshold of automatic insights, so auto insights, and more and more work with Alteryx. So thanks again for joining us. Ladies and gentlemen, look out for the next invitation to the Power Up sessions, the MIP information sessions that bring you up to date with all the tech stack. So we'll close out with some music for a couple of minutes while people log off. And if there's any other questions, shoot them through. We'll be here for another couple of minutes just checking the Q&A. Enjoy the rest of your day, guys.